come and share her talk with us, because I think this will really inspire you as well. And Sujata is also from London Business School, so an alumni from London Business School, which is probably my most favorite schools in London. It really is my favorite, because you guys are all mature students. You've all already sort of done some really cool things, very international, very diverse cohort every year. And I know, by the way, who is going to be your CIO this year, but I can't reveal his name. But he messaged me and said he's leaving a company and he's joining London Business School.
Oh, right.
Very lucky, and London Business School is very lucky to have him. Yeah, so I think it will be like breaking news very soon. You'll probably get it in the newsletter, but I kind of already know who it is, and it's going to be phenomenal. So Francois obviously has a very good taste.
Oh, excellent. Good to hear that.
Yeah. So everyone, meet Sujata. She's got a story to tell and inspire you. So over to you, Sujata. Thank you so much. I think you should be able to share your screen if you have.
Let me try now. Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, cool. So let me, hold on. Let me upgrade you into a co-host perhaps first, and then you will be able to do that. So tell me if you can do now.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Right, off you go. All right, I'll speak to you. I'm around, but I will just be moderating and whatnot. So everyone, do prepare your questions and post them in chat as well. All right.
Yes, just give me a second because it's not coming up. So
Is it a PowerPoint or something very fancy?
It's a PowerPoint, but it doesn't seem to want to let me share it, so I might need to share it in Canva if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, just
Canva works as well.
Okay. Sorry about this, everybody. Right, this should work now. If I go into Zoom, share screen. Here we go.
Yay, we can see it.
Excellent. Okay, brilliant. So thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. It's really exciting, and it's really exciting what you've been doing with Eleanor at Teens and AI, and I hope you're having a great time. So a topic for my presentation is starting your tech company. I'm the founder and CEO of You've Got This, and I'll tell you more about it and my journey over the next few minutes, and feel free to kind of jump in if you want to and ask questions, and then we can leave time for questions at the end as well. So I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit more about me. I'm going to tell you about my company. I'm going to talk to you about how we have built our team and understand and share some of the insights and experience that I've learned from that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about whether you raise capital for your company, whether that's a good idea or not, how to kind of understand some of the key questions that you might get asked if you then do go out and speak to investors or people, key stakeholders. How do you launch your product or get it to market, and then a little bit more on the business model and will it make money? So that's usually where I help on the mentoring side of things, is on the business model. So if anybody does have any questions or they want to talk about their business model, then we can always do that at the end. So the question is, at the moment you're doing your companies as part of an accelerator, and then, you know, with the idea that potentially you'll go back to school or you'll go on to university or whatever it is. But the question I want to ask or kind of talk about today is, should I be doing this for real? Is this a viable option for me as a career? Is it something I want to do? And just kind of delve into that a little bit more. So as a background, when I graduated from university, I went into banking. And at that time, I think banking was a great place to learn, and I was really excited about finance, and it combined lots of things that I wanted to learn about, like the financial markets, some analytical skills, and it paid well. And then, you know, I just felt it would be a really nice way of traveling as well. So I worked with Barclays in my first job. I worked there during university, and then I joined after graduating. But I found my first role was a little bit too niche, and they kind of wanted me to kind of stay in the same department, and I felt I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I moved to HSBC on a graduate program. And that was an international program. So I'd worked in different countries. I worked in London, I went to New York, I went to Singapore. And through that time, I got to see different departments of the bank, like most kind of programs that you can do, which I found gave me a lot of variety and breadth of experience. And in the process, I really enjoyed seeing those other countries and meeting people from those countries, and really kind of doing more than just working, and learning more than just the kind of main job that I was doing. I went to London Business School, as Eleanor said, which was a great opportunity to meet people from all over the world. And by that I mean it's a 2-year program, and in that classroom you meet people who have come from a number of different countries, from a number of different backgrounds, so different sectors to your own. I had about 5 years work experience when I joined. And today those people have gone on and they've got really interesting jobs, and we kind of sometimes catch up and talk about what each of us is doing. So happy to share more about that if anyone is interested. I guess for you guys, university is like something that you might be thinking about, and what you want to study, and hopefully this talk might help you think about that as well. So about 18 months ago to 2 years, I started a business called You've Got This. It was my first tech company. And you can see at the top there, I've just kind of thought about what was happening in the environment, because I think making these decisions is never easy in a vacuum. You always have to think about what's the context, what's happening in the world right now, where are the opportunities for me and my interests and skills. And you can see there, for example, in 1998, when I was in school, Google was launched in the Bay Area in Palo Alto. And then Facebook was launched in 2004, which was when I was at university. And then I put that little squiggly line to say that, it's always looks like it's a straight line from the outside, but it's not. And you don't always know, where is this experience going to take me? But I think if you can think about what you enjoy doing and what skills you want to develop, you can always try and join the dots up later. And you can see that the banking app in the top right corner, which just shows that kind of complete transformation from bank as being this, old-fashioned building with lots of, clerks and things like that, to skyscrapers, and then, global opportunities, and then everything is in your phone. So that's something to keep in mind, that even if you take on a job or you start doing something initially, you might be doing something very different in a few years' time, that things evolve. So what is my company? So You've Got This is a marketplace. It's a gig economy marketplace, and that means that we are building a solution for people who don't want to work for companies, but people who want to work for themselves. It's a growing area. It's something where I felt my networks and experience would help me build the platform. And it's something which we have built together with my team, a working live product. And you can go on the website, you can book somebody for a project, and you can pay them through the platform. And really what we then wanted to do is start integrating other features and tools that you might need if you're then a flexible worker, such as insurance or pensions or other types of optimization tools. So that's where the AI side of things comes in. So what I guess is really excited about the accelerator, or the work that you're doing now, is really working on that technology and how that's going to build some IP for you, some intellectual property, something unique, which you can then use as the basis of your business. Does anybody have any questions on that so far? I'll take that as a no, so I'll keep going. So the first thing when you're setting up your business is the team. And I think what's really nice is, I guess, you'd be meeting each other and working with each other as team members, and you're probably trying to decide, well, who's going to do what. And so my first question is really, what roles might you need? So somebody needs to kind of define what is it that we're building, where are we building it, what's the opportunity. Somebody then needs to build it, so you need somebody with technical skills, and then you need someone who's going to sell it. So those are the three roles that we've got there. So myself, my CTO Stephen, and our head of sales Molly. Stephen and I met at the Teens in AI Accelerator. So this was one of the outcomes of some of the mentoring I've been doing over the last few years, which is great. And the other thing is, there are other roles that you might need. So really, depending on what your strengths are, you might want to bring in other people who can help with other things. So for example, I can do some finance and financial modeling. So I take that on board. Other people will hire a CFO. Somebody might bring in designers. So UX, UI designers, for example. Do you guys want to call out any other roles or responsibilities that you need to cover between you? Don't be shy. Any ideas? So for example, you might need a product manager, you might need some more software engineers. Yeah, so there you go, there's some more ideas there. But really, when you start the business, you're probably thinking about the main ones and you want to keep your costs down. So you have to really think about, what can you do yourselves? And that obviously means, whereas what you might imagine is, the CEO is a very senior person who does, only the kind of management and leadership. In a startup, you end up doing everything. So you kind of, you're building the company, but you're also selling it and telling people about it. And everything's kind of happening at the same time. So yes, so that's, I guess, one of the main differences between a big company versus having your own startup. So raise capital, yes or no? So this is the one thing that I see lots of attention given to when you think of a startup and you hear about so-and-so company has raised millions of pounds by this famous venture capital fund. What does that mean? And I think there's not really enough attention given to understanding what's happening here. So, some of you may already know this, but venture capital funds will take money from limited partners, such as pension funds, for example, and then they would invest that money into startups. And the idea is that they're taking a proportion of that money. So they're not taking all the pension funds money, they're taking a small amount of it, say 5 or 6% of the total fund, and investing it in a more risky strategy. And when they come to look at companies, they'll evaluate the company on a basis of a number of criteria. When I studied business at school, what we talked about was building businesses that generate revenue, and then you can fuel the growth of that company with the revenue that you're generating. This is a very kind of different model where investors kind of see a kind of risky opportunity to make very high returns. So when you think about your business, are you building something that you want to grow steadily, that you want to generate profit and use that profit to grow the business? That's like the majority of businesses in the UK economy. Or do you want to be in this kind of smaller sub-segment, usually tech businesses, where we feel the growth could be exponential, we could launch this globally, we could make a number of sales, or could grow our customer base, but we'd need millions of pounds of investment in order to get there. So for example, if you want to start a bank, for example, you're going to need to have so many things that you'll do in that process that it requires so much upfront capital that you really need an investor to come on board. So those are the two options. And then if you do decide that you want to go outside and raise capital, and a lot of you will be preparing presentations this week for pitching, and you'll be thinking through some of these things. Will the external capital help me grow? Will those investors, do they care about my sector? Are they interested in my sector? Do they know about this sector? Will they support me, or will they just be there to set unrealistic targets? So these are the questions that you need to be asking when you think about partnering with a potential investor. And can they provide more than money? So a lot of venture capital funds will have a range of different things that they can offer you. So for example, they'll have good legal advice, or they'll have office space, or do they have networks with your customers, or are they going to give you so much support and encouragement, introduce you to other investors? So that's the kind of really important questions to ask, because I think sometimes when we start a business, we think we're going to go out, we're going to raise investment, but then what is the trade-off for that investment? So can I use the money from the business itself, or do I need to go out and raise capital? So very important to consider that. Okay, so the next thing is, you've got your big idea. The investor may ask you, how big is the market? And this is something that I think a lot of us aren't necessarily familiar with, because when we think of a product, we think of the people we know and our friends, and how many people is that? How many people would buy this product? But really, it's thinking about all the people who possibly could buy this product, and then how many of those you think you could easily address. So then you get something called a total addressable market and a serviceable addressable market. And these numbers could be things like, for us, it's 30 billion. It's a massive market, because every business which has less than 40 staff is spending approximately 6,000 per year on hiring costs. Or are there big trends? So for example, do you know that the market or the opportunity for the product you're building is growing? So in ours, it's 50% of the workforce is expected to be full-time or part-time self-employed by 2025. So you may have heard about people taking on a side hustle or a second job or working in the gig economy. These are the kind of things that you might want to mention. So just have a think for a minute about what that might be for you. Okay, so the next thing is our customers. So if you've got your idea, you've thought about how big the market is, how do you then target those customers? So for us, it's professionals, it's people who want to work independently, for example, mums or people, or even dads, and people who are thinking, you know, I've got other things I need to be doing during the day, but I still need to make some money, and these are the skills I have. Can you match me with a business that can use my skills? And then we need, on the other side of the marketplace, a big pool of startups, people who say, I need somebody for a day or two here to get this piece of work done for me. And potentially they could join my company longer term if there's a fit. So that's our marketplace. Those are the two people that we're bringing together. And then the next question is, how do we go out and get them? So have a think about them. Who are your customers? And then what's my go-to-market strategy? So how am I going to launch this product? How am I going to get those people to sign up? And this is something that I think the big tech companies make it look so simple, don't they? Because they have such big budgets and everybody knows about them and they become viral very quickly. You can think of, you know, something like Instagram, for example, everybody's using it, Snapchat, or, you know, whatever it is that's the latest that people are using now. But when you start a business, you have to get the word out yourself. And that means you might want to go to other communities that already have those people in their community. So, you know, Facebook groups or companies that already service those types of customers. And where do your customers already hang out? So are they going to certain events, or what are they doing? What do they enjoy doing? What do they do in their spare time? And through that process, you build these personas, and then you work out how to go and onboard your customers. So for us, for businesses, it's partnering with accelerators or co-working spaces that have these big pools of startups. And then, of course, you can build your own community and have an online marketing presence. So I'm going to come back and ask you some questions. So, you know, please think through some questions if you've got any on these. And if you want to talk about your company or idea. How will the business make money? So this is such an important part of the business. It's in a way linked to the potential opportunity of the market, because if you know that everybody who uses your product is willing to pay £5 and there's 1 million people who are willing to use it, then, you know, you're already making your £5 million. Or you're very, you know, you've got a clear path to that. So it's important to test that, to go out and ask users, would you pay for this service? What would make most sense to you? Some people will charge a subscription where, you know, you set that up and it will get direct debited from the bank accounts. Is it commission? So for example, can you take a percentage of some transaction that's happening? Or is it a one-off? Is it, you know, here's the service, this is how much it costs, and that's it. Think, for example, I think WhatsApp or something like that would have charged like £1 when you downloaded the app the first time. So really that the business model that you choose will really depend on your product and what makes most sense. Okay, so that's a quick whistle stop tour. I would love to take any questions that you have. Feel free to ask, there's no silly questions. Otherwise, yeah, let me know.
Thank you so much, Sujata. So everyone, can you feel free to unmute yourselves and ask a question? Because this is really something, first of all, you should now be paying attention at how speakers present and learn from them as well, because this is essentially how you will be pitching. And then secondly, Sujata has, I don't know, are you already fundraising, right, Sujata?
Yes, so we have been talking to investors. So let me just outline that process a little bit more. So when you're thinking about whether to raise capital or not to raise capital, one of the ways that you can do a little bit more work about that is you can actually go and speak to venture capital funds, and you can say, I've got this idea, this is what I'm thinking of building, I've got my kind of MVP here. Is this something that your company would fund? Or you can say, often it's sometimes better to start building relationships before you're ready to raise, because then then I think they're more receptive to your idea, because sometimes if you go to somebody and say, will you fund my idea? And they'll say, well, I don't know you. So it's really important to start building those relationships with people who you think might want to invest in your company, ask for their feedback, and to see if you would like them to invest in your company or not. So it's a two-way discussion. It's always a two-way discussion. That's the one thing I would say on that. Oh, I think I see a question.
Yes, we do have a question from Ellen. How do you feel as a female founder in the startup ecosystem? So Ellen is based in France. So I don't know whether you know much about the French ecosystem versus UK, because it's not really as mature in my experience from what I know, but generally, maybe you want to share some experience.
Yes, I think it's a very good question. And often when I see founders who've raised capital all over the world, they usually tend to be guys. And I think that can be quite, I don't know what the word is, but I think women lack sometimes the role models that they need to see that they can do it themselves, and have that sense of, this is normal for, for women to be doing too. I would say as a female founder, I've gone on a good learning journey over the last couple of years, and I've networked with other female founders, and I think that's really helped me to kind of feel comfortable as a female founder, and created more opportunities for female founders. So for example, if I see somebody and they say, oh, we don't invest in the future of work, we invest in real estate, then if I know somebody who's building a company in real estate, then I'll go and I'll connect them and say, I met this lady, she invests in real estate, or this man, why don't you have a chat with them? And then people will do that for me. They'll say, oh, they don't invest in my sector, and maybe they'll invest in your sector, or maybe this is something you want to talk to. So I would say there are definitely less female founders. I would say I hope all of you help me in changing that, the guys and the girls, and making it a safe space for women to operate. I think there's a huge opportunity for women, or even men and women, to build products focused on inclusivity, bringing women into kind of, so there's so many things which have built products which have been designed primarily with men as the user. And I think as a female founder, you can really bring your own experience and thoughts and what you feel is needed in the world. So I see it as an opportunity. If you need any help, get in touch.
We have another question from Bandar, who's based in UAE. As a person who is considering majoring in computer science in university, do you think I should take business in school to support my computer science career?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Yes. So I think my honest opinion is I think it's a great idea. Computer science with business, I think, is a lovely, lovely combination. I think, coding is becoming such an important part of life and work in so many different industries. And I feel, if you're comfortable with that and you're thinking in that way and you combine it with business, I think that's, that is really a really good idea. So again, happy to speak more about it if you want to. But yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Any other questions? Feel free to also ask questions related to your project, because Sujata has mentored in all previous programs. Very recently, she's been very, very active. So I don't think there would be a question she hasn't answered yet. So feel free to throw any questions at her related to what you are doing. Particularly related to business, who to sell, how much to sell for, how to sell and whatnot. And do be brave, because you have one opportunity, and I don't know, Sujata, how busy you are this week, but it would be amazing to have you in Discord to help some of the teams.
Yeah, happy to.
So guys,
talk through some individual businesses if you want later on.
Yeah, so I know, Lily, you guys are reaching out to firefighting people, right? I mean, not just the firefighting people, but to really senior people in government who handle fires and things. I mean, at this point in time, I don't know who's going to buy your product, but it would be very interesting to see, because obviously, Sujata, they're trying to tackle something related to fire disasters countrywide. So it's really the product they're developing would probably be suitable for the governments. A lot of the times, the governments that would be selling to may not even be interested in the people as such, right? Or their communities, depending on which country and whatnot you're in. But how do you deal with a product that's not really B2C, it's not a B2B either, it's a B2G, and governments are tricky people. How do you find the right people in the government to speak to and sell to them?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Happy to look at it in a little bit more detail actually and see where the opportunity are, because I mean governments like to fund projects where they think that it'll add value, you know, to their, you know, it makes them look good, and you know, unfortunately that sometimes is a criteria, but also where, you know, if there has been a disaster or something in the area, then they're more motivated to kind of prepare for it and, you know, and be aware. And sometimes it's influencing them and saying, well, you know, so and so in this country is going to use our product, what, you know, this is what they're doing, and you know, have you thought about it? So it's almost showcasing some examples of where it can add value to them, and really putting that together in your presentation and explaining where the value add is, because I'm sure you see the value add, and it's really about telling stories or giving case studies and examples that illustrate that value add that you see so clearly.
And maybe even telling them or showing them what will happen if they don't invest into your product. What is, you know, how much will it cost them? How much does that problem cost them? And you know, would it not be great if your product could remove that pain, right? And how much it would cost, because the cost of your product versus what the cost of not buying into your product, societal cost and the damage and whatnot.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's really good.
Jania's question: how can we define the scope of the overall market? Should we present accurate numbers or just presumable records that are calculated by ourselves? Jania, why don't you unmute yourself and just tell a little bit about your project first, so that Sujata has some context, because otherwise, without a context, it's very difficult to understand, you know, which market and whatnot, because she can then be a little bit more precise. Can you unmute yourself? We're either very shy today or the technology is not working for everyone. Jania?
Yeah, sure. So I just wanted to ask about the market that she has mentioned, that we need to present an overall like records about our product and its market. And I wanted to ask, since our application will be about the education and also health, like it will be dedicated to improving the speaking skills of kids. That's why I thought of market, like should we find numbers, statistics that about the overall apps, or how many apps are they in the markets that are dedicated for the same purposes?
Oh, good question. So,
or should we like find the overall number of the people that are who need it, who need such
so I would say the second one. So I would say, who needs this product? So if, you know, to give an example in my area, like I used to work in banking and wealth management. So I would say there are, I don't know, 100 million people who want to invest in stocks or who want to use my product. So yours would be, I've got, you know, there are 100 million people who need to learn how to speak French or German, or who want, you know, whatever it's 10 million, or, you know, pick a number. And then you say, well, there are already these players, but separate them. So the first thing is really just to talk about the market size for your product in general. And then you can say, well, even if we got, you know, a small percentage of that, that would generate this much revenue. So we can target the ones who are based in France or where, you know, wherever it is. And that would give us this much revenue. And then you can say, well, these are all these players, but this is how we're different to them. So it's really important to show the differentiation, because a lot of the time, if you then try and pitch your product, people will say, well, this already exists. And that's such a big barrier for people, even though, you know, there's the market can often be big enough for many players, and your company could easily win the market, even if they entered second or third or fifth. But what happens is, I think people get put off by, okay, there's already this company, that company. So it's really important to kind of show the differentiation and say, yes, there is this company, call it out. This is how they do it. This is how we do it. This is why we think this is a better way of doing it. And then start showing some experiments and research that you've done to show that this is the way it should be done.
And definitely use Google, which is what I've just done. I asked Google, what is the market size for speech therapy? Because you guys are tackling speech therapy. So you have like education aspect, but really it's speech therapy. And there is some really great, there is great data on what this market is worth right now. and some really great insights on websites like MarketWatch and whatnot. So you can definitely see, what this market is valued at. Yeah, to show to the judges that this is definitely worth kind of investing into and whatnot.
So when they say value, they often calculate what somebody's willing to pay by the number of people who are willing to pay it. And it's two parts, so you need to find both those numbers. Or you estimate, sometimes you need to estimate how much they're willing to pay and then go out and test it. So then I'll start asking people, would they be willing to pay that? Or you put up on your website and then you see if people click it and say, yeah, I'd be willing to pay it.
Okay, any other questions? Bandar, what about your product? You're tackling dyscalculia, which also is probably, I don't know, quite relatable to dyslexia as well. And I know there is quite a big market for those. Have you got any questions at all? Is your product B2C? Are you selling directly to the consumer, or will you be selling into schools, Bandar?
The plan is to send it like directly to customers, and I'm not sure actually about the market because before this I never really thought about it, but I think it's a really good thing I should look into.
Yeah,
definitely. What else do we have on this call? Ellen, what's your plan with your product? You will be starting in France, right? Am I right? Because you three are based in France.
Yes,
will you
exactly.
be selling directly to the consumers, or are you going to be working with some organizations that already sell products to people who suffer with hearing aid problems?
We were thinking of starting with the B2C, directly to the consumers. But why not, if we manage to get a partnership with a brand, why not go through their channel?
It's a very interesting product. Do you want to tell us a little bit more, Ellen, about what you're doing?
So yeah, sure. It's a connected neckband for hearing impaired and deaf people to help them understand conversations better. So the neckband vibrates where the sound is located, and the intensity changes if it's near or if it's far. And we'll use transcription on our app, and it will also be directly in the person's hearing aids if they have some. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So the scope at this accelerator is to develop the software, right? Not the hardware. I think hardware is it will be probably a different scope for a different.
Sure.
Yes, exactly. We'll do this probably later because it's the most difficult part.
Yeah. Sujata, any thoughts for this team?
On the business model side of things?
Yeah.
So
I want to start with B2C to begin with.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so I guess B2C is going to people who are facing this problem, as opposed to say B2B, or where you might go to the NHS and say, do you want to buy a certain number of units of this, or certain charities or organizations, right? So on the B2C side, I guess I'd be really interested to understand your go-to-market strategy. So where are your users currently? Are there certain groups that they're part of? Are there certain communities that they're part of? And then how much are they willing to pay? Because, and then, just understand what the alternatives. So why would they use this over an alternative product? And, is it because it's 10 times better? And, that's one thing that the investors always ask, how much better is it than the next best alternative? So if you can describe the features and the things that make it better, you want to have some like user testing once the product is ready. But just on the software side, I think the IP sounds really interesting. Is this a unique piece of IP or, software that you're developing that then you could even sell it to another company and they could use that software to develop the hardware? you know, if can you patent, you know, some aspects of it? What are the kind of revenue streams that you can generate from this product? So, you know, you could have a look at other medical devices and see what they've done. Think about other medical devices, how they've sold their product, how much they charge. Is it like a subscription? Is it a one-off? Is it, you know, do they just need one, or are they going to need it updated? How does the software get upgraded? So there's so many different ways that you could go forward with that. Does that help?
Yes, thank you so much.
Cool. All right. So raise your questions or raise your hands if you have more questions, whether it's related to business models or anything else. All questions are great.
And anything, yeah, you think I missed that you wanted to know, then let me know.
All right, and if not, then definitely post those questions in Discord, or you can also connect with Sujata on LinkedIn if you are old enough to be on LinkedIn. and I'm sure Sujata will be more than happy to help. No questions so far. All right, well, we'll close this session. Yes, Sujata, thank you so much.
I was just going to say, do I get a thumbs up?
Oh, there was a... Oh, there is a question or not? Or did I miss it? No, I don't think there is. So feel free to react if you enjoyed this talk, and do definitely connect with Sujata. And Sujata, if you have time this week, I think these teams would definitely benefit from your wisdom and expertise. And if you know of anyone else who's keen to mentor in all things business models, you guys will be learning about business models tomorrow. We've already covered value proposition statements, and I'm looking forward to seeing them all before our progress session tomorrow morning. And yeah, all right, so no questions, so we can definitely close this call.
Thank you for the love and the thumbs up.